No.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Ah, there we
Oh, not
go. Right
yet.
now.
Kia ora koutou. Tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. He mihi nui kia koutou e huihui mai nei i tēnei wā. He wā whakahirahira mō ngā pānui o ngā mahi tuhi o flash fiction. So welcome to everybody, and I'm really honoured to be hosting these readings from the shortlisted finalists in the National Flash Fiction Competition. My name is Moata McNamara, and my relationship with flash fiction started years ago when for some reason I filled in a form to win a prize, and the prize was a box of books. And I got this box of books that I didn't have a clue what it was about. Opened the first one, and which happened to be Michelle's, The Ever Rumble. Started reading it, and I thought, oh my God, people can write like this. And I'd just come out of years and years and years of a PhD, and never wanted to write again. And suddenly I saw this form and thought, oh my gosh, I'm gone. So I signed up for any classes immediately and haven't looked back since. I just love the form. Um, I'm really honoured. I've read all of your pieces, and I'm really honoured to be hosting this and listening to you reading your work. So without further ado, I'd like to start with you, Tim. And Tim is a writer, an editor, and apologise for reading this, having to read it at the side, and anthologist who lives in Te Whanganui-a-Tara. He was awarded the New Zealand Society of Authors Te Puni Kaituhi o Aotearoa Janet Frame Memorial Award for Literature in 2010. So kia ora, Tim, and I'm looking forward to hearing your piece, your wonderful piece.
Kia ora, Moata. And thank you for the introduction. Yes, in terms of my relationship to flash fiction, I think because I write both fiction and poetry, quite often flash fiction is what I write when I'm sort of going from focusing on poetry to focusing on longer fiction. So I think it's a wonderful thing in its own right, but also for me, a sort of halfway house between those two other forms. So this is my story before the earthquake. There's only so much you can do. We've been securing bookcases, latching cupboards, trimming branches. I look at my desk in the study. It's still covered in junk. I should clear it, but I'm tired. It's late, and it will probably be fine anyway. The kids are excited. Early start tomorrow, I tell them. Then it's off to bed. The Very Hungry Caterpillar for Lizzie, The Hunger Games for Jess. Bedtime duty's over. I do what I should have done earlier and fuel up the car. It's a long, slow queue at the garage. Surge pricing is in full effect. We plan to be on the road to Karen's sister by 9, but you know what it's like with kids. Last minute toilet stops, vital soft toys gone missing. It's almost 10 by the time we leave, and the roads are packed. Damn, I say, stuck at another set of lights. Damn. The motorway's a nightmare. 10:45, 11. Karen gnaws her knuckles, fiddles with her phone. Where are you? Texts her sister. 11:50, 2 kilometres further on. Traffic at a standstill. Our car stationary beneath an embankment. 11:55. Kids, I say, brace yourselves. Couldn't GeoNet just be wrong for once? 11:58. Bang on time. The ground twists beneath us. Our car groans on its suspension. Lizzie screams. Karen turns to comfort her. Metal shrieks against metal. Dirt and stones tumble down. Something rattles off our car. Then the worst is over. All around us, drivers are attempting U-turns, eager to head home. Horns scrape my nerves. Okay, I tell Karen. Next time you can drive. That will be in a month, though it's barely worth evacuating for a 5.5. We've booked flights. We've booked flights south a full week before next December's 7.4. Some things you don't leave to chance.
Mm. Kia ora, Tim. I loved this piece.
Thank you.
And it's also a reminder to us all of the fragility of the land that we're living on. Can you talk a bit about how you started this piece and why, what prompted it?
I think from memory, it's an idea I've had for a while, so it's a little bit hard to reconnect with the original impulse. But essentially it's a what if story, and the what if in this case is what if earthquakes could be accurately predicted in advance. So I'm just imagining in this story that it's a routine part of people's lives here in Te Whanganui-a-Tara, Wellington, that or else everywhere in Aotearoa, that there's another earthquake coming up, is this one worth bothering about? Yeah, I guess we better take it
Mm,
seriously. um, as if earthquake prediction was a bit like storm prediction, only more accurate.
wonderful. And it's not that far-fetched. I can see a future where that's going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, we'll see. It would certainly be reassuring if we could predict them in advance.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Lovely. So next we have Deb Jowett, who I've met before and lives in Whangarei Heads at Parua Bay, the wonderful Parua Bay. Um, Deb loves the movement of tides and the prolific bird life, which is, I must say, I share that love, Deb, which you certainly live in the middle of. Um, Her work has been published in Flash Frontier, an adventure and short fiction at the Bay, Te Kokoru, and anthologies including 40 South short story anthology 2025. You might want to read this, and Changing Landscapes. Flash and microfiction from Northland. And Northland's such a rich place for flash fiction. I know that Whangarei has a fiction writing group. And Deb, I wanted to move a bit from your wonderful story. Just at the end, I'd really like perhaps for you to say something about the flash fiction writing group, which I think would be interesting to a lot of people. So over to you, Deb, for your wonderful piece.
Thank you, Moata, and kia ora koutou. Um, just to add to your introduction, which was great, like you, Moata, I had sort of dragged myself through a PhD. My relationship with flash fiction came because I was looking for a bridge out of facts and the confines of academia into fiction, and I thought, here's a lifeline. And as you said, there was a very established flash fiction group in Whangarei, and so I joined them about 8 years ago. But on to my story anyway. Lessons in geology. You put on your thickest glasses, the number threes you use for reading the Latin names of plants, and trace the Strait of Hormuz with your forefinger so it looks like an oversized missile hovering over the waterway between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, and the two separate land masses that have been moving together for millions of years, a phenomenon structural geologists get excited over, called the Arabian-Eurasian collision, and being one of the few places on Earth where you can see the two continents meet. They call it a geological marvel. And just think, around 20,000 years ago, during the last ice age, the water in the Persian Gulf was so shallow you could have walked across it. And no doubt people did, as well as the giant buffalo, gazelles, and oryx they hunted. But that was before the ice started melting and global sea levels began to rise. So now colossal oil tankers can make their way through the strait and out to the open sea. But for hundreds of millions of years before the Arabian plate met the Eurasian plate, it was sitting at just below sea level, accumulating the kinds of rocks needed to form oil and gas reserves so that when the collision finally occurred, they were trapped under its northern end, which is now beneath Iran, Iraq, and parts of Syria. And even though that didn't have any relevance for humankind until a brief geological time ago, it's becoming clear what some people will do these days to get access to those reserves. And nothing you can see with your number threes that will stop them using the weapons they've made with the oil and gas they already have.
Kia ora, Deb. Another really relevant piece relevant to what's happening in the world today, and a really interesting delve into the whakapapa of oil and gas, the things that we are having to rely on in some way. It's also a reminder of the greed that accompanies these things, these necessities to life at the moment, and a reminder of the urgency to kind of move past what we've relied on for so long. Yeah, I'd like you to, apart from really admiring the writing and the messages that it holds, or the history that it holds, can you talk a bit about the Flash Fiction Group and how it was formed?
And Whānau?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, well, I believe Michelle was the instigator of the group in 2014.
Ah.
She was in Whānau at the time on a boat, and she brought people together who were keen to adopt the short form, and it really took off and sustained itself. So by the time I arrived, it was well established, and when was it, 2021, we celebrated the group by bringing together an anthology of people who were currently involved and people who had been involved in the past. And it really has a life of its own. It's such a wonderful thing to hear stories being read. It's very different from reading them yourself, isn't it, when you hear the writer reading their piece. So, we meet monthly, and we're quite structured now. We make sure that the stories are sent out well before the meeting so that we can have time to mull them over and give constructive criticism, I guess it is, to the writers, because we want to we sort of, I guess we want to grow. Be part of something
that's great,
really dynamic.
Yeah, that's great, and several publications have come since then, since the first one, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll move on to our next wonderful writer, Annabelle Wilson, a tangata tiriti writer and teacher. Dr. Annabelle Wilson lives in Swannanoa, and I have to say that I've never heard of it, in Te Waipounamu. Writer of poetry, plays, and creative non-fiction. Has been published in, and I'm afraid my printer has kind of gone off, but No Science to Goodbye, Aspiring Daybook, Dusk and Us.
It's the titles of the books.
Yes, yeah. Making Mixtapes with Sei-chan, Mahuri Tōtara Haimata, Small Tree, Tall Tree. So some really interesting publications that I'm looking forward to reading, Annabelle. So over to you.
So I'm a writer, teacher living in Swannanoa, which is just over the Waimakariri River from Ototahi near Ohoka and Kaiapoi. My relationship with Flash is I'm interested in experimenting and investigating hybrid forms. That's what I did my PhD in. And yeah, really interested in blurring the boundaries between prose and poetry and seeing what different genres can do when we mash them up. So that's sort of my approach to lots of different writing, and I find flash is really a freeing form. And this is my piece for New Zealand National Flash Fiction Day, May Day Metropolitan Line. The next person on the train is Jesus. The next person on the train is Jesus. The man next to you rocks, monitoring the sliding doors. His scent, dried apricots. A cartography of blotches cover his lap-clasped hands. Shuddering through the caverns of the underground, the tube skids to stillness in the Hades darkness beyond Euston Square. Silent passengers avoid eye contact. Someone sighs. Due to a person under the train at King's Cross, we are being held for a few minutes. We'll be moving again shortly. The Messiah Seeker makes a low ee sound. The train shakes into life. A figure in a tailored suit, clutching a credit crisis emblazoned Financial Times boards at Farringdon. Alleluia, the rocking man proclaims. A couple stumbles onto the carriage, huddling. Pretending to stare out the window, you watch their reflection as they walk to the seat opposite yours. The woman rests her head on her partner's shoulder, like a seabird, nesting. She starts sobbing. Her partner pats her, awkwardly. He's holding an envelope labelled Moira. You stare out the window, at your own reflection, a spectre over their intimate sadness. At Liverpool Street you stand, smile dumbly at the woman you now think of as Moira, wonder how you might do something, say something useful. The rocky man blinks, cackles, raves. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. His words follow you like a prayer as you walk towards the long escalators to be carried up, out, into the bright spring light.
That was great, Annabelle.
Yeah,
I kind of wondered when I was reading this, it's a really intriguing piece, and it kind of points out, for me, it really pointed out those moments that I think most of us have come across, where there's something private that we feel like we're part of, and yet we're outside. We have to sit outside it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of intense emotion that um, you're not quite sure what to do about, but it sticks with you. So could you talk a bit about what prompted this? What prompted this piece?
Yes, so it's a fictionalized mashup of a few train journeys I went on as a supply teacher in London when you're constantly traversing the city on those tubes. And yeah, just really as a Kiwi on the OE, just getting used to just observing and being in those moments in time where, yeah, I literally did see a couple who were having, going through something, and yeah, that feeling of witnessing and then yet not being part of it, and but you can see in the reflection of a tube, you can sort of watch something unfold that is, yeah, that's it's private, but it's going on in a public space. So I was interested in that, and yeah, some of the dialogue is found material that I did overhear on those train journeys, and I joined them all together, and it's a piece I've been working on for a while, so it's sort of evolved over time.
Great. Yeah, really interesting, and that you portray very well that sort of discomfort of being in that private public space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Tanya Norfolk, who has had short stories awarded or shortlisted in national and international competitions, including the Sargison Prize, Catherine Mansfield's Sparkling Prose, Te Tauihu NZSA Short Story Awards, Bridgepool, is that Bridgepool or Bridgepool Prize?
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport Prize and the Plaza Prizes. She's had 3 stories published in Headland Journal and Flash Frontier. So kia ora, Tanya, over to you.
Kia ora moata, kia ora koutou, and thank you for the invitation to read today. Flash fiction is, I love the way flash fiction just puts the reader straight in to a story without explanation necessarily, and gives you a moment, but that hopefully leaves you with a much bigger story. And I love the way the form can do that. And it can be a really nice form to explore as a change from writing longer pieces, longer stories or novels. My piece is called Mother's Shoes. I was lying under the veranda that day. I often hid there as a child, liked seeing the underside of the house, the brutalist architecture of its concrete piles, something I felt an affinity with even then, though it was long before I knew that phrase. The coolness of the dirt laced with mold, the cobwebs slick with dew, the backside of weatherboards, licks of old turquoise primer that had smeared around corners and edges, brush marks all abstract expressionist, things you aren't meant to see. I found the corpse of a mouse once, preserved like a bog body, a miniature Tolland man lying on his side, legs and arms all curled up. That morning, I'd spied a discarded paper wasp's nest, a small cluster of cells. I took it out of its cranny in the crease of wood and held it in my palm. It was made up of multiple hexagons, a honeycomb perfection as light as a feather. And as I watched my mother's shoes descend the veranda steps, heard her calling my name, a tremor in her voice I chose to ignore, I held the nest up and looked through a single cell. That's how I think of her. The thin hexagon membrane all but transparent, revealing the shadow of her walking away for good. A 6-sided window of light, and her, a smudge in its center.
This is one of the ones that had me in tears. It's the detail in it is so vivid and beautifully written. And I think we all have that kind of mush when it comes to mothers. Can you talk about I'm really fascinated by the connection you make between the wasp's nest and the mother. Can you talk a bit about how that came to be?
Sure. I don't know that was a conscious thing necessarily, Moata. It was just, something that came picturing the child under the house. And I know I've found wasps' nests in similar crannies. It was actually, this piece came about from exploring for a larger piece for this character. That I'd written quite a bit of. And when I wrote this particular part, I thought, that could be a flash fiction just in itself. So for this competition, I took it and tweaked it a bit. And so it is possibly part of a longer story.
Well, I
Which
look forward to that.
Might not be what you think. It's
I look forward to the longer story too.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have Kerry Dalton is a poet, writer, and social activist. Her poems and short fiction have been published in a number of anthologies in Aotearoa, and in 2023, she was the winner of the New Zealand Nomad Poetry Slam. Wonderful. She lives by the beach in Paikakariki and has always had sand in her shoes. So no mai Kerry, and I'm looking forward to hearing your reading.
Tēnā koe moata and tēnā koutou katoa. So I have most recently been writing mainly poetry, and flash fiction to me has a lot of the same embodiments of that, of leaving a lot of space for the reader to find meaning in it because it's such a short form. And for me, it allowed me to explore character and narrative a bit more. So kia ora. My piece is called Still Life. He stood in front of my still life photograph of a taxidermied cat, surrounded by a yo-yo, a monographed handkerchief, a sheaf of wheat, and a fire extinguisher. Are all of these things symbolic? He asked. I would say they are suggestive rather than symbolic. The quality of the photography is extraordinary, he said. Thank you. I use a special process with gelatin, old-fashioned really, but very satisfying. It gives me a lot of control. This is one of a series. Why not try and capture life, not death? Well, that is the challenge, I said, to give death fullness so that it is something of life in its own right, not just an absence of life. Photography has that challenge at its core because it catches things in stillness. Even if they are alive and in motion, it preserves. It was then that he brought out the flowers from behind his back. Not flowers, actually, but stalks of flowering rosemary. These are from my garden, he said. You can put them in a vase or use them to flavour dinner. And there it was, the ambiguity I would come to know he favoured, where things always had an escape route from being just one thing. It was 2 months before he told me he had a brother who drowned. He was 3, I was just 1, and I can't really remember him. I grew up an only child. He was a presence, but also an absence. My parents never talked about him. My next photograph I gave to him. It was of a bird's nest with a thimble in it, a bunch of rosemary, a half-eaten apple, and a light bulb. Thank you.
Hilda Kerry, a wonderful piece, and as a sometimes artist myself, was absolutely fascinated reading the things that you bring into it. I also have a real interest in the language of things, as things themselves. Could you talk a bit about the way your thought process in selecting the particular things you started off with in the first, right at the beginning?
So it's a bit mysterious, which is what I really love. It's one of my joys of writing, is the process of discovery and things coming out that I didn't know that I was thinking or had in me, and there they are. So I have got a meaning for what those things mean and how they associate with what's happening in the story, but I don't want to ascribe that because part of what I really enjoyed about writing this was that interaction that there is between one or art form and another, and how that hopefully carries on beyond the page because of what it asks people to do, which is make associations.
It's very interesting that the piece itself is kind of like a piece of art. Well, it is a piece of art, but a piece of visual art that immediately you're trying to make when I was reading it, I was immediately trying to make my own connections, and really interesting kind of group those objects together in a way that everyone who reads it will think, oh, okay, I see that connection through this. And as you say, it'll be completely different from what you had in mind, which is great.
Yes, it felt like I was cheating a little bit by,
Did
like
it?
by putting that in to have the associations, going further beyond the story.
And you could certainly take this into a much larger piece of writing, couldn't you? Great. Okay, so next we have Kim Martins, living in the stunning far north, and I have to agree, far north of Aotearoa, New Zealand. My own whakapapa goes to Waima in the Hokianga, so I have a long interest in the far north. Kim took up writing after many years in the corporate world, followed by long-term consulting work in Italy and Bhutan. Kim is a keen photographer, which makes that really nice resonance with what you've just read, Kerry. Kim is a keen photographer and traveller with inspiration for poetry and stories, often coming from her photos or from walks with her active fox terrier. So kia ora, Kim, and I'm looking forward to hearing your piece.
Kia ora, Moata. Kia ora, everyone. Fortunately, you'll have to put up with my Australian accent, but fortunately, my smooth fox terrier Zoe is not here, so she will not be barking. I guess my association with flash fiction is probably not as deep and as rich as everybody else here. I write long stories, mainly novels, short stories and poetry. But for me, flash fiction is a way to train myself in a way to be more constrained, to show rather than tell, and to really try and tell a story in a very concise manner that has a character arc and so that you can follow the characters from beginning to end and feel something about them. So my story is called The Other Jim. Standing in our backyard, looking at the night sky, I think about Tom Hanks being poisoned by his own breath. Well, it was Jim Lovell, really. But when Dad, standing next to me, asks if I know what happened to Apollo 13, it's Tom Hanks I see first, gripping a clipboard, reading numbers he knows don't add up, saying, "Houston, we have a problem." Dad shifts beside me. I tell him what I know. The crescent Earth the crew photographed on their way home. The oxygen scrubber, cobbled together from duct tape, canisters, and plastic bags. 3 astronauts in a crippled capsule, half frozen, waiting. Dad fills in any gaps, as he always does, in that flat voice of his. The same voice he uses for the weather. The same voice for telling us what the MRI scan found before asking what we want for dinner. It's a no-drama voice, the kind I imagine Jim Lovell must have had. On Artemis 2, Dad says, the scrubbers are amine filters, quietly cleaning every breath the crew exhales. 4 people looping around the moon. They have iPhones and GoPros now. From that distance, Antarctica is a smear of white. Better systems, but a lot depends on what keeps working. He says nothing after this. I think about Lovell getting into another command module after Apollo 13, knowing everything he knew, he still wanted to go back into space. Dad's breath clouds the air. He is still looking up, his hand on my shoulder. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kim. It was really interesting to start thinking from this piece, start thinking about the way that when there's a movie made of something, it becomes more real than the event itself in lots of ways. And that becomes the memory, whether it's close to what really happened or not. So I really appreciated reading this, and it kind of took me to other places where I would instantly remember the movie and be not so clear about the actual events themselves. Can you talk about what prompted you to write this?
Yeah, it's a story that's been, it's actually a real story. It is a conversation that happened between me and my dad. Dad was a pilot for the New Zealand Air Force, so we were constantly in the backyard looking up at the night sky. And unfortunately, he did have a lung issue, significant lung problem. So I couldn't really tell the story. I didn't know how to tell it until Artemis 2 went up. And I started looking into the oxygen scrubbers and how people breathe when they're in these tiny coffins, these capsules. And Dad had actually spoken about it in terms of the space shuttle, not Artemis 2. But that kind of put it all together. And for me, it's about you can have better systems, medical systems, NASA technology systems, but a lot does depend on what keeps working. And it doesn't always keep working. And so finally it came together, and I felt that being able to put it into 300 words was going to be the container I needed to tell the story.
It's amazing how when you condense something to that size, to that many words, it becomes so much stronger. I find the intensity of that short form of flash fiction is
Yeah,
really powerful.
very, and not easy to do.
No, not easy to do.
No.
Not easy at all. Kia ora, Kim. So next we have Mark Blackburn. He and his wife Sola Freeman like quiet places by the sea, Mark. Lovely, I do too. They live in Eastbourne, Lower Hutt, and wind down in Waitarere or Waitarere.
To be honest, I'm not sure. We can try both of
Okay.
those.
Yeah, we haven't got a macron, and I've got so used to using macrons that if I'm unfamiliar with something, I don't know. Near Levin, they have 4 adult children and many pets. While running PR businesses, Mark has also published numerous fantastical short stories, graphic fiction, and a novella. He listens to and creates electronic music, paddles kayaks, and is a referee and judge in amateur boxing. What a range, Mark. So tēnā koe, and looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you very much, Mahara. I've always written short stuff professionally in PR and journalism, and over the past 20 years and trying to write creative fiction. But I haven't written anything really sort of flash fiction short. I do write in a flash after a long time thinking about something, it sort of flashes out, which is what happened with this piece. The seal we found. The day after the summer storm, we walked the beach, the kids barefoot in shorts and raincoats, the dogs shaggy with sand, we in gumboots calling out to be careful. The sky was still soured, tan foam scattered ahead of the wind. Warm rain sprinkled. Trees, smashed and sodden, clumped from top to bottom of the tide, and as far along as we could reach. What glorious smiles as the kids returned with fines. The boys poked at jellyfish with their best sticks. The girls pocketed tiny blue shells. Little Nia stepped against the rain, red cheeks puffing, red coat flapping. They found the brown seal folded against a log. She's dead, they said. Nia nodded sagely. She died in the storm, they said. We should take her home, bury her, so she can be more dead, Nia said. Like the whale, everyone came to see it. They called it Hekanui. They did a blessing. The Prime Minister was there. No, it was the mayor. Will they come for the seal? No one will come, we said. Can we give her a name? Pepe, Marina, Cove. She won't mind, we said. Can we bury her at home? We thought of the fuss, carrying the seal home and burying it. Yes, of course. They decided she should be buried at the beach. She's not ours, they said. We dug in silence. They all carried her. The boys marked the grave with their sticks, the girls with their blue shells. Next summer, poroporo wildflowers grew over Pepe's grave behind the dunes. We sit there on walks with new dogs. The sticks and shells are gone, Pepe probably as well. And our kids, now at other beaches with other people. Everything transmuted. We try to mark the moments, but they drift off.
Kia ora, Mark. Some wonderful wonderful visuals in that, and also I really love the way that I'm hearing the kōrero. I'm hearing what they're saying, and these wonderful things that these children are, the process that they're going through in dealing with the death of this animal. Can you talk a bit about? I always personally find dialogue really difficult. Can you talk a bit about how the dialogue came?
Gee, that's a good question. I actually find a lot of my fictions heavy in dialogue, and I don't know why. But I listen a lot to what people say, and I think that's probably, I talked about thinking for a long time before something comes out. So I'm thinking through things I've heard and people say, and then it just comes out. And I think the fact that it comes out so quickly and easily is kind of like the way it does for people when they're speaking. So I feel like that's why it's come out like that. It's heard, it's thought about, and then bam, comes out.
Yeah, that requires a lot of listening.
Well, you do a lot of listening if you're doing parenting correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Kia ora Mark.
Thank you.
So, we're coming to the last, but by far not least. Kate Sapiano-Chin, whose pen name honors her Chinese, Maltese, and Celtic forebears who made Otago their home in the 1860s. Previously a technical and academic writer on health topics, Kate now writes short fiction and poetry. Her work has been shortlisted twice in the Flash Fiction Prize, awarded runner-up in the Queenstown Writers' Festival, and published in 1964 Mountain Culture. Kate also tests her words out loud at open mics around the country. Wonderful, Kate. So I really look forward to your reading. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. I'm thrilled to be able to read to you all and feel extremely honoured in this company, I must say. It's really only recently that I've been putting my writing out in the public domain, really over the last sort of 18 months to 2 years, although I've written all my life. And I wasn't aware of flash fiction as a thing, although I've always really enjoyed reading short forms, the intense sort of short form of short story and poetry. And I started writing flash when I was having a bit of a poetry drought. And it was almost an avoidance activity. So yeah, that's how I came to writing flash and trying my hand at that. So I'd like to read to you this story, Your Father, One Tuesday. You're putting the appointment in next week's calendar, making coffee, you burn the milk, work from home today. 14 emails by 0900, 3 needing thought, you're CC'd into 7. Does being copied in make you responsible if you're the boss? One argument with a form that won't submit, one phone call not made. You need to walk, Island Bay, wind from the south. A few gannets today, folding and falling, working the water. Fishing boats, hoping for a run. Everything knows exactly what it's for. Sand still on the road from the last storm. Driftwood shoved up the beach. A thought about living. Earpods flat. 3 texts unanswered. Delete one, respond to one, draft an email. The smell of rain before rain, a missed call, kiosk coffee, leaning against the wall, looking out to sea. Wind picking up, the kindness of the stranger rescuing your dropped phone. The thing you want him to choose. You know the alternative. Stride home, call your sister, leave a message, voice hoarse, mouth dry, remote through a meeting, shoulder stretch, cup of tea, read the news. a nano thought about persuasion, like a blunt knife slipping. Thoughts about dying, folding and falling. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kate. Really intense walk alongside you with this. I found it really fascinating to kind of go through, and also a fairly stark reminder of the way that technology is so much part of lives nowadays. And then there's the last line. Can you talk a bit about that last line?
Oh, the last line.
Yeah.
So
Could you read it again and then perhaps
just the last line, yeah. Thoughts about dying, folding and falling.
There's that wonderful contrast between all the technology and all the kind of minutiae that you go through in a day. And then that last line just really hit me. Was that a difficult last line, or what was the process of writing this piece?
Yeah, so probably easier to talk about the process of the piece, because once I get on a roll, you know, I'm not saying I have a lot of editing, but you know, the thing sort of forms itself. So I usually start with a situation of some sort, and it's often quite an interior situation, like a person's sort of mental life. And in relation to this story, we'd been talking about voluntary euthanasia in our whānau, just sort of, you know, in the weeks sort of prior, poking and prodding it. You know, it's quite a complex thing. This South Coast is a place I, you know, often go to sort of think or take a break from working from home or whatever. So it's a very familiar environment. And the voluntary euthanasia thing, the situation was just kind of generally in my mind. And I try and create an opportunity for a reader to sort of join in a feeling, like who knows if they do, but anyway, you know, to just create that sort of opportunity, that sort of interior kind of opportunity. And that's, I mean, yeah, that's really what this story is trying to be. You know, what would it be like? What would it be like if this was your situation as somebody's child and this was your father one Tuesday?
Kia ora. And it certainly works. So probably a really fitting and kind of thought-provoking end to our kōrero today. I feel really privileged to have been part of this kōrero and listen to all your stories. And I have to say that there's no way I could choose a winner from you. So a huge mihi to the judges. They've got a really hard task. And I think we had around 400 entries. So to come down to the 8 that are here, it must have been a huge task in itself and a series of tasks. So a huge mihi to you all for getting this far, and to all of you. You're all winners in my book. So be lovely if I had prizes to give to everybody, but great work, and please keep going, because I really want to see, like, from what a lot of you have read today, I can see books. I can certainly see books coming out. Probably from all of you. You know, each short piece can grow really easily. So just to wrap up for today, a massive mihi to Michelle Alvey, the absolutely tireless worker who is behind all of this, and who at this moment is remaining invisible, but she's still in the background, ever there, Michelle. And I think we all know and appreciate the amount of work that you do for us. Also, a big mihi to the judges. We had Ingrid Horrocks and Louise Wallace were the judges, and I think that hearing you all read, they've made some wonderful choices. So on that note, we'll end this Zoom session. And do any of you, before we go, do any of you have any questions for anybody else? I'd hate to leave this with when someone has a lingering question that they'd like to ask someone else who'd read. Or any comment to anybody else.
Well, not specifically, but I'd definitely like to say well done to everyone, because that was a fascinating range of stuff, and it was lovely to hear it.
Huge range, isn't it?
Mm.
Massive range. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
likewise. Just great to hear everybody read, and wonderful stories.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
A huge privilege.
Isn't
Really
it?
fantastic.
Isn't it? Yeah. This country has some amazing writers, and may they all get well published and the world know about it.
I think all the stories show how you can just do almost like a shot of espresso, you know, coffee. It's a bit of a punch, and you can just do something in such a short space that's emotionally layered. And some of the stories I was listening to were really, there are just so many layers there that you could peel back, and just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be, I was thinking when I was looking for some questions to come up with, I thought, you know, I would love to interview each one of you separately, and we could go on for hours, because there's so much to talk about in each piece. They're packed. Wonderful.
Could I just say, sorry, first of all, sorry for dropping out there. I meant to hit unmute, and bizarrely I instead hit leave. My comment was just to Kate. I absolutely love that line about, does being CC'd in when you're the boss mean you're responsible? I just wanted to give props for that line.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, an important line in the story.
Yeah. I think from all of you, there were things that were just magic, that just lines and words and the combination of words that just really stood out as being very, very beautiful and very clever. So a huge mihi to you all, and I'm looking forward to reading more from all of you, and congratulations to you all as winners. Nō reira, he mihi nui ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa.
Kia ora.
Kia ora,
Kia ora.
Michelle.
Ngā mihi nui.
Ka